Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. And let's crack on with today's first story. Much love guys. Now today's first story comes from a throwaway account and it says my 27 female, ex-partner's 28 male, new girlfriend, 24 female, is trying to play house with my child, 4 female. I'm using a throwaway because mutual friends use Reddit. Sorry for the length. My ex-boyfriend is James. James and I dated for 3 years, spring 2014 and the end of winter 2017. Since my daughter is obviously older than 3, it's clear that she is not biologically James's. Her father was not someone who wanted to be involved with her and signed away all rights when she was born, so he is not involved in the picture. James and I were originally friends, which grew into a relationship when my daughter was around the age of 1. As my daughter grew a little bit older, she saw James as a de facto parent, a role that he happily stepped up to. She knows that he isn't daddy, but had the strongest bond with him of anyone outside of the biological family. Our relationship finished owing to a difference in personal timelines. James wanted to buy a house together. We had lived together in the last year, but we each still had our own places and moved to another city for work. While I was happy where I was located, it became a self-imposed ultimatum, and while James didn't actually move, it was clear that our relationship was over. We stayed friends and he changed from a de facto dad to fun Uncle James to my daughter. We have both made sure that she was stable about the situation, something that she clearly seems to be. As I do with other friends, my daughter and I will occasionally visit James, who sometimes has my daughter without me there for a couple of hours at a time if I have to run errands or something similar. I have no reason at all to worry about James with my daughter, who is always all smiles and 5 more minutes when I get back. About 6 months ago, James started dating Tracy. She is someone that he works with who actually first met while we were dating. Their relationship itself isn't the issue. However, there have been instances that have caused concern in the past few months. The first was when James invited me and my daughter around for a playdate with James's nephew, who he was babysitting. Tracy was there too, which I expected. However, when we arrived and James greeted my daughter with a hug, she commented on how she looked like her daddy, meaning James. Both James and I said that my daughter wasn't James's child, which is something James later said had come up in conversation between them before. She only remarked that she meant they had a strong father-daughter bond, which I thought odd but ignored. There have been a couple of other times when I've seen Tracy either out and about or at planned events when she said that my daughter really likes spending time with James, which I obviously know, though I just took it as awkward exes chat. The reason I am posting is about what happened a couple of days ago. Again, James was babysitting his nephew and had invited myself and my daughter to the park for an afternoon. We get there and everything is fine until my phone rings, and I'm told there's an emergency in the office that I have to sort out because X, Y, and Z aren't picking up their phone. I mention this and James and Tracy offer to look after my daughter and stay in the park while I rush over to the office, only a 5-minute drive, to sort out the problem. I'm gone for about half an hour overall. The issue wasn't really an issue, as it never is, and when I get back, everyone is where I left them and all happy. We started getting ready to go home when Tracy mentions to me that someone that she knew, an amateur photographer, happened to be in the park taking pictures of the landscape and had a couple of shots taken of the group, my daughter included, and that she'd send them over because they were apparently really sweet. I was a bit perturbed by someone apparently just coming over and photographing my child, but thought glass half full and decided it was only a nice gesture. A couple of hours later, Tracy sends me over the solo pictures of my daughter. She says that she didn't give her friend permission to use any of the solo pictures of my daughter on a professional page, but the ones of the scenery and of James's nephew were on there, and if I wanted to give consent, then my daughters could be on there too. They were actually very cute, and I looked on the photographer's page to see the rest from the day. There were some sweet candids of the nephew and some nice couple shots of James and Tracy, but the last picture on there was a family-style portrait of everyone, my daughter included. The caption said something like, "The Jameses' surname, Tracy's surnames, know how to have fun." I immediately messaged the page asking for the picture to be taken down as I had my daughter in it without my permission. They replied apologizing for the issue, saying that Tracy had said that the little girl was James's and he gave his consent. I then messaged James asking him to not give consent for anything involving my daughter and to remind Tracy yet again that he is not my daughter's father. He replied saying he never gave his consent for any group pictures to be on there, and he resented the accusation. I messaged Tracy later on making it clear that I didn't want my daughter to be used in any kind of situation where the facts weren't clear, and no, James was not her father. I didn't get a reply. I don't know where to go from here. I don't want to be that ex-girlfriend who tries to get her ex to sneak around behind his girlfriend's back for him to see my daughter. But at the same time, he's done nothing to stop Tracy from acting out this charade of my daughter being James's and therefore hers. If I just cut them both out, then my daughter will be confused, though I know she'll bounce back. I know that James would be hurt too, but I need to put mine and my daughter's feelings before that. It's just getting to me that we were able to be fine and stable through our whole breakup, yet a completely unavoidable situation is what will finish this off. Should I just move on without James and Tracy in my and my daughter's lives? Am I simply overreacting and becoming that ex regardless? Now, I know this is probably just a case of me reading one too many Reddit stories in this and always seeing the worst in situations, but the photographer happening to be in the area while they're all out together and the mum's gone away, it was red flags to me. But again, that might be too much. I kind of wonder about how the future of all this is going to pan out though, because it sounds like, as everyone gets older and life changes and James and yourself eventually moving on, how is this going to work out? I'm sure there's many people with similar relationships out there, but it feels very awkward at the moment. But commenter says, this seems super simple to me. Don't leave your kid alone with people who want to pretend she is theirs. Let her visit for sure, but with you there too. Done deal. If they offer to be alone with her again, decline. If they push for a reason why, tell them why. Another user says the confusing part is like OP wants James to be a fill-in dad, but he can't make any decisions. The whole thing is a bit weird. I'd say cut them both off, as it'll only get more confusing. Another commenter says it's only going to get more awkward and uncomfortable moving forward as your daughter ages, especially when you get a new partner. Best bet is to cut them off and move on. Your daughter is young and will be fine without them in her life. Strawberry Blonde Haze says, I think James choosing to keep someone like Tracy around does say a lot about his character and how stable a role model he may be in 5, 10, 15 years. The influence his partners have on OP's daughter may only increase as she gets closer to puberty and idolizes females she aspires to be like. One might think, but it's only an hour or two. But kids are very impressionable, especially in a single parent household. So it was around 3 days later that OP did update their post and said, so I got a lot more interest in my post than I expected. While some were either end of the spectrum, the majority seemed to suggest that James was too involved in my daughter's life. I had a long think about why I had pursued this route. To clarify to some, I did not force James into this position. He was happy to maintain a relationship with my daughter, given that he had been in her life for several years. The comments concerning where my daughter would be as and when James settled down and got married and had kids of his own also made me think. This situation was definitely one of convenience, especially given the fact that our relationship ended since James wanted to move away and I did not. I definitely had no plans to challenge any of James' life choices, nor did I ever expect him to prioritize myself and my daughter over anything else. Something I seemed not to convey clearly in my original post was that James really is just a friend and has been for the past year to me. And so because of that, I don't use him for anything that a parent would do. Only he's not a babysitter / daycare post, especially. He sees her maybe once every 6 weeks, and since our relationship ended, he's been alone with her 3 times at most. So this is not me using our former relationship as a tool for free childcare. He asked to see my daughter. I don't make him make time for her. As a final clarifying point, this has never been a I want him so you can't have him situation. Our time together will always be cherished, but I do not want to pursue a romantic relationship with James again, and he doesn't with me. On to the update. After reading the comments to my post and thinking over the issues, I decided to send both James and Tracy messages apologizing for my reaction and my heat of the moment accusations the day after I made the post. James responded saying that it was water under the bridge and he would have been annoyed too in the situation. Tracy's response was different. All she sent was a message saying, "I know he's daughter's father." I assured her that James was not my child's dad, and even went as far as to apologize if I had seemed off with her, or if my current relationship with James was an issue. She asked if we could meet up and talk, which I agreed to. We met for coffee, and she said that she had been off with me, but not because of my relationship with James. She said the last year she had found out that she was infertile, and while James knew and was supportive, seeing him with my little girl, who she knew he helped raise for several years, got to her, which resulted in comments about him as a daddy. She then said that the whole photographer situation was set up. She had asked her friend who lived near to the park to come and take some pictures of her, James, and the children as soon as it was clear that I was going to have to leave. She told James the same thing she told me about the friend happening to be in the park and wanting some portfolio shots, but told the friends out of James's earshot that I was totally fine with the pictures happening, and that James was my daughter's father, so she has an on-site parent regardless. She was the one who suggested the family portrait shot. She told the friend to stick that one online, but that the individual ones of my daughter needed to go through me first. She didn't think that I'd be interested in looking at the other photos, and thought I wouldn't see it. She said that having a picture of her, her partner, a little boy and a little girl was enough to keep her going since her medical news was hitting her hard. Tracy ended by saying that since James is the only father that my daughter has ever known, she is therefore the closest thing that she will ever have to a child with him. I didn't quite know how to respond. After reading many comments on my post saying that I was a jealous harpy and that Tracy was an innocent bystander, or even calmer versions of that mindset, I was surprised that my actual suspicions were actually correct somewhat. This was not the reasoning I ever thought was behind this though. I thanked her for her honesty and asked if she was talking to anyone else about this. She said she wasn't, but she knew she should be. She also said that James knew nothing of the extent to which she was feeling, other than sometimes she was a little blue. We spent a while searching online for local mental health specialist and left it with her promising to make an appointment and to talk to James. After getting home, I contacted James to say that I believed that there needed to be some distance established between him and my daughter to benefit everyone involved in the situation. He said he agreed, and that he would always be there for my daughter if she needed him. I asked my daughter that evening, more out of curiosity, as to how she views James, and all she said was James's nephew's uncle. So I'm taking that to mean that she is by no means dependent on him at the very least. I don't know if this is the end of this, and I'm sure I'll get some criticism for not cutting out James altogether, or for limiting the existing contact. But I believe this will benefit everyone, including Tracy in the long run. Thank you again for everyone's advice. Travelbug says to the OP, I think everyone here acted super maturely, and at least a lot of the loose ends have been tied off because of communication. Good on you for all being mature adults here, OP. It doesn't happen as often as it should. Wonton says, I wouldn't say that Tracy acted super maturely exactly, but I commend her for eventually communicating what was going on with her. This is mature of her. One more commenter says, Tracy's manipulation of the photography session and having it posted online was terrifying. Also, hyphenated names already? Tracy's bold. I do hope she can let go of the idea of your daughter being hers by extension of James and that she gets the help she needs. But definitely stay away because I'm getting creepy walk into a hospital and kidnap a baby vibes from her. But now, I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Let's move on to another story. Now, our next story comes from the Petty Revenge subreddit from ERB33414, and it says Petty Fence Revenge. My first post here. I hope it is suitably petty. Little long on mobile. After a lot of condo living, I finally bought my first fixer-upper house. It has a nice big backyard and I have a dog, so I wanted to put a fence up so I could easily let the dog outside and not worry about her becoming a gator appetizer with a canal in the back. Man, I still find that wild. People got gators like backed onto their gardens, man. had a survey done, contracted a fence company to put in the fence. We decided on PVC privacy fence in the front with locking gates and the sides of my neighbor's fences on either side, and PVC chain link in the back. Here it is common for neighbors to share fence lines. The fence company put in the fence to code with privacy fence being 5 feet back from the front of my house. I went over to check on the fence project, and before I even get out of my car, my neighbor to the right, Karen, is banging on my car window. Karen is upset because the privacy fence now closes her off from a side gate in her fence next to her pool. I'm not living in the house yet as we're still doing renovations, and it didn't even register that she had a side gate. Karen says she's gonna call the city and complain. I'm taken aback, but I'm wanting to be a good neighbor. I arrange a meeting between myself, my general contractor, the fence contractor, and Karen. Karen declines to attend the meeting and sends her husband Dick. Dick is adamant that they should be able to use the side gate even after we explained to him my fence has been done correctly to code, and it's a liability for me to have his pool and lawn guys crossing through my property to use that gate. I offer to split the cost of relocating his gate to the front of his house, and Dick refuses. Insists that I pay for a new gate and landscaping that would need to be done. I'm trying to be nice, but I'm not that nice. We just had our final fence inspection with the city, which we passed, and the inspector noted their back fence is too close to the canal and took a bunch of pictures, so they may get in trouble for that. So today, in my act of petty revenge, I locked my side privacy gate, and I'm going to plant some hedge plants in front of their side gate. Looking forward to seeing if the city makes them move their back fence. Edit. Answering a couple of you asking. Already gone over some preliminaries with my lawyer. Waiting to see how they react to me locking the gate before I proceed. I forgot what the exact term is, but she was not worried about them being successful in claiming they had the right to use because of the past history. Also getting a video doorbell and some outdoor cameras installed. Someone says to the OP, so they put their side gate so that as soon as you step through, they were on your property. What the fuck? OP said, yep, and their fence is actually half an inch on my property. For a while I felt like I was being gaslit because they were so adamant there was nothing wrong with going on my property. I never understand people like this. You got a neighbor like OP who's a decent neighbor who comes round, who's willing to compromise on the situation with a deal that works for everyone, even willing to contribute towards it himself when he has no obligation to do so, and these people still shoot themselves in the fucking foot. I have very little sympathy for people like that, but what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below, and let's have another one. Now, our final story is also from the Petty Revenge subreddit from just an RN who says, from 5 stars to jail bars. I threw my sister in jail. Technically, she's my half-sister, but moving forward. I've been trying to get a restraining order against my mother, her husband, and my half-sister. With everything I had, it should have been a done deal. But the judge thought otherwise and denied it. Before we left the courtroom, my lawyer asked to put a statement on the record, which was that I had all the power, and if they showed up on your property, I have the right to have them arrested. I told him I understood, and then looked directly at them and said, if you show up on my property, I will not ask you to leave or tell you to leave. I'll just call the police. You will be arrested and I will press full charges for trespassing. A little on my sister. She is spoiled. My parents put all their money and efforts on her and is now biting them in the ass. Read prior posts on my family to get a better understanding, but the long story. We came from money, she was the chosen one, she got everything, I built my own life. I'm getting ready to move and have been packing and she showed up yesterday. I did exactly as I told him I would. I didn't ask or tell. I just called 911 and explained the situation. The police showed up, asked her what was going on. She said I was her brother and that she wanted to talk. I told the police and her that she had no business being here and to arrest her, and I was pressing full charges. And they did just that. I feel nothing. The level of hatred I have for her is dangerous. She has treated me less than any kind of living human being my entire life. She thrives on this. I feel like I was perfectly justified in doing this. They knew what would happen if any of them showed up, so fuck around and find out. And I think it's just fair play to OP for sticking to their boundaries in this. Like OP said, they knew what would happen if they turned up on his property. and OP stuck by what they said they was going to do, which was call the police. So, absolutely fair play in that situation. A lot of people struggle, calling authorities on family members because, family. But, you're absolutely right to do so in this situation. But what do you guys make of this one? Have you ever struggled with calling authorities on family or something similar like that in the past? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And just a huge thank you for being here today, getting involved in the stories, your love, your support, your time. It always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so, so much. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.